Welcome back to This Week in Golf on News Talk Saga 960. I'm your host, Chris McKee. My next guest is known on Twitter as @ProGolfCritic. He's also co-host of an excellent new golf podcast called Golf Lovers United GC, along with @GolfLoverUK and @GolfDadUK. Their slogan is Golf the Fairway. For obvious reasons, the podcast's available on Apple, Spotify, and you can find them on glugc.com. I'm joined by Jay Aaron. Jay, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. This is really exciting. Thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we're talking about my favorite topic in the world, which is golf. So, happy to talk about it. Whatever you got for me, I'm ready for you. So
all right, Viktor Hovland, now the FedEx Cup champ. Does he feel like a deserving champion to you?
Oh, 100%. I think Viktor Hovland, at 25 years old is really sort of a rising star on the PGA Tour. I picked him to actually win a major this year. Obviously that didn't happen, but he had pretty high finishes in all the majors. I think he top 10 or maybe top 15 in every single major. So I think that he is obviously trending up. I've got him probably ranked about the fourth. I've got him ranked fourth in my personal rankings. I think he's also
hold that
fourth.
thought, because I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Fair. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but totally a deserving champion. He's always been a really elite ball striker. That's always been his strength. And I think that his short game has finally gotten to the point where it's even with his ball striking, which is a really dangerous combination. So yeah, I'm a big Hovland fan. I think he's one of the future stars. I mean, he's a current star now. So yeah, he's a great player.
Yeah, I have him. This was the turning point for him to go from really good to great. And now in that, he's in the upper echelon. So speaking of that, I saw last night on your Twitter, you put out your top 25 guys for the season, was it? So yeah, obviously I want to go through all 25, but one, where does Hovland slot in your top 10? And then run through your top 10 for me and maybe explain, because there's one or two controversial ones in there. So start with Hovland, where you got him in your top 10 right now.
For sure. I've got Hovland fourth. He's been moving up steadily all throughout the year. I think again his performance in the majors has been pretty good, even though he didn't actually win one. But he obviously won the last two events. So I mean he's probably one of the hottest golfers in the world. So having him fourth was kind of where I had him slotted. You could certainly make an argument that he could be potentially higher, but to me, I think in order to crack that top three, you really have had to win a major fairly recently. So for my number one, it's really a 1A and 1B. I think that you could kind of flip these and it'd be totally fine. Number one, I got Jon Rahm for obvious reasons. He's won 4 times this year. He won a major. He won the Masters, second in the Open. So I mean, you can't really go wrong with having Rahm first. I've got Brooks Koepka too. Again, he won a major this year. He finished second at the Masters. And he was one on LIV. He's been one of the more consistent players on LIV. He's only won one LIV event this year, but he's been going through a lot of life transitions this season too. So I got to give him a little bit of bonus credit for becoming a dad. He's only really been married a little over a year, which is another huge life change. So
yeah, for those that don't know,
I've got Scotty.
So for those that don't know, Brooks just had a baby, 2-3 weeks ago, right? Yeah. So.
Yes. Yeah. So just had a kid. Shout out to Jenna and Brooks. They're really wonderful people. Like I've known Jenna for probably a little over 10 years. I've gotten to know Brooks the last few years, and they're just really solid people. Like I've had a chance to meet Brooks's dad. Shout out to Bob. Met his mom too. Shout out to Denise. So yeah, like all solid family, great family guy, and they're sort of expanded on it. So really exciting times for the Koepka family. Three, I've got Scotty Scheffler, or as I like to call him, Scotland Scheffler. He shout out to Live Tracking for that. So yeah, I mean, very consistent season. Like, yes, he didn't win as much as he probably wanted to, but he's a great player. Again, really elite ball striker. Putting was definitely subpar. I mean, if you could do a creative golfer with him and Cam Smith, have Cam Smith's putting and Scotty Scheffler's ball striking, you would have like somebody probably better than like prime Tiger Woods. So obviously Hovland 4, Cam Smith 5. Look, Cam Smith, he's been the number one player on LIV this year. He's had pretty good major finishes. Still very elite player, so I've got him top 5. And I've got to have him ahead of Rory. Like I've been on the Cam Smith block against Rory for a full year. I've got Rory 6. And people were asking me on Twitter, "Oh, shouldn't you have Rory higher than Cam?" I'm like, no. Like why? Until Rory wins a major, Rory's going to be stuck behind Cam, unless Cam's game just like totally tanks, and I don't think that it is. I think Cam's one of the more consistent great players in the world.
All right.
So just to round out the top 10 really quick, I've got Xander Schauffele 7. I've got Bryson DeChambeau 8. I know that's going to be the controversial one. I've got Patrick Cantlay 9, and I've got Patrick Reed 10.
See, my only thing, Koepka, 3-4 months ago, I would have agreed with you with Brooks Koepka too. I think he's slid down a little. Not much. I mean, he's still a top 5 player in the world, but that's when I saw your list last night. I was like, that was about kind of the only movement. Maybe you did move Cam up a little and Brooks down a bit. But aside from that, I'm in pretty good agreements with that list. But I wanted to get into the Tour Championship and the staggered scoring. A lot of people don't like it. I like it for one. It's what's the motivation to play well all year if you're going to go to the Tour Championship and you don't have a leg up? So that's my take. So I'm okay with Scotty Scheffler starting with a 2-stroke lead. Your thoughts on the staggered scoring system?
Yeah, shout out to the PGA Tour for trying something new. I think that's been one of my biggest complaints about the PGA Tour is that they're kind of stuck in their ways and not really willing to try out new stuff. I think that they've had this for a couple of years now, a few years, and I think that there's pros and cons. I have mixed feelings about it. I think any tournament that wants to be kind of taken seriously, like as like, oh, this is like one of your headlining events for the year. This is like your season ending event. To have it kind of being staggered where you give certain players an advantage is a little bit it actually, ironically enough, it kind of reeks of an exhibition to me. Like I've played in plenty of club championships and stuff like that where it's like I've been at a deficit because other people are getting strokes and I'm not. Like, so I think that's a little bit tricky. I would love to see them go to a match play format eventually. Like, and I'm not saying it should have like 30 plus players because I think that's kind of that's not what we really want. I think that we want to see the elite players, like the top 8 to 12 to 16, match up against each other over 4 days. And see who's the top dog after that. There is not enough match play in men's professional golf. I think that there needs to be. I think that it's really one of the formats that hasn't really been expanded on as much as it probably should be. So because match play is really exciting, like every shot, every hole really matters in like every match. So I'd like to see that. I'm optimistic that we might at some point. It'll probably take us a little while to probably get there, but yeah. So I mean, look, kudos to the PGA Tour for trying something new. Is it the best format that they could come up with? Probably not. I think that they could probably do something match play, but it is what it is. I still think that we got a deserving champion in Victor Hovland, and Xander Schauffele was right there. And a little shocked Scotty Scheffler didn't really play all that well in the Tour Championship, but he was kind of due for a bad tournament, so I understand.
Well, Chris McKee, joined by Jay Aaron. You know him on Twitter as @ProGolfCritic. He's also co-host of Golf Lovers United GC, the podcast. You can check it out on Apple and Spotify. And so wanted to bring you on because, we're at the end of the 2022-23 season of PGA Tour. I wanted to look back at some of the favorite storylines over the past year. My favorite storyline of the year, just from a content standpoint, was Phil versus Rory. I loved it. You've had Phil jump on your Twitter timeline. He's jumped on mine. He put my impressions and analytics through the roof when he does. But
he always does.
Yeah, I just, Rory now 10 years without a major. Where does he go from here now? He's getting in these spats with Phil and that. I mean, is there light at the end of the tunnel for this guy?
It's a great question. I've had kind of a love-hate relationship with Rory for a while now. Like Rory's been one of my favorite players to follow the last 10 years. And he's damaged that the last year, to be honest, with his, stance against LIV, his the sort of shots that he's taken against Phil in the Full Swing documentary on Netflix. More recently, kind of talked about his gambling, which was just kind of a really weird comment for him to make. I don't know why Rory feels like he has to be so petty sometimes. I would like to see that kind of reeks of a little bit of lack of maturity, or maybe I've also kind of put the conspiracy theorist hat on that Rory's kind of playing up this rivalry with Phil and some of the other LIV guys because he really does want to create a little bit more animosity so that there is some sort of team competition where the PGA Tour guys and the LIV guys eventually match up. Or maybe in this new simulator golf league that him and Tiger are coming up with. I got to be honest with you, that league is really, really desperate for some stars that are going to be able to hold their own in terms of talking smack and sort of creating content. So there is no better person to potentially bring into that than Phil Mickelson. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. There's this thing with Tomorrow Sports and the PGA Tour where I feel like they don't want any LIV guys in there, which is really silly to me because if they want that league to be as big as it can be, you got to have Phil in there. You really need to have Bryson DeChambeau in there as well. I think Bryson is made for this type of environment, simulator golf. He's so big on technology. He has his own YouTube channel. The Phil Bryson match that was on YouTube got 1.5 million views in a week. That shows me that there's a huge interest out there for these rivalries and these particular matchups. So Rory, I hope that's his motivation. Fingers crossed, and maybe we can the TGL could be really interesting and sort of sets us up for some really interesting match play stuff later on down the line. But he could also just be really petty and really juvenile, and that's probably why he's doing it too. So neither one of those two things would surprise me, but let's hope it's the former and not the latter.
So, yeah, what's funny? I never even thought about that because I have no interest in this TGL thing. I think it's ridiculous because I don't even like hitting a golf ball into a simulator myself. I find it terribly boring.
Oh, really?
It doesn't create the atmosphere of what golf is. You're not hitting from the rough and hitting the screen. But anyways, I, thinking about Phil on that, I'm like, oh, now I'm tuning in. If Phil's on there talking smack, walking you through why his head speed is important, this and to me, it's like golf. Adult content. I don't want to say this, but it literally is. It's it's crack. I want to sit and listen to Phil explain it. So I do like that.
For sure.
Now that the PGA Tour season has come to an end and LIV's winding down for their season, I think we're going to start seeing movement of guys because Greg already said, Sear said, hey, guys are coming. So can you pinpoint one or two guys that you think, I don't know, obviously you don't know yet, but anything kind of smells suspicious to you? We might see this guy on LIV. Give me two or three guys.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple guys. One of them I mentioned on Twitter that actually Phil liked the tweet, so that should kind of tell you some things are kind of going on behind the scenes. And I've also gotten wind that it doesn't look like he's going to be picked for the Ryder Cup, which is something that Hugh's been campaigning for a lot the last couple weeks, and that would be Keegan Bradley. So Keegan Bradley, very, very close friends with Phil Mickelson, very close with Brendan Steele, very close with Cam Tringale. All those guys happen to be part of the high flyers that are in LIV. And there's actually interviews where Keegan Bradley said how much he misses those guys, because he used to play practice rounds with them every single tournament on the PGA Tour, and he's like, yeah, all my friends are like at LIV now. And I just think that Keegan really wanted to be part of the Ryder Cup. Like, he's been campaigning for it a lot. I think that he realizes that he's kind of been on the outside looking in, and it starts to raise questions about sort of why that is. And it could be that, like, some of his relationships with the LIV guys and the fact that he is kind of looking over there is like a possibility. Golf Lover UK, who's one of my podcast mates, he's basically 100% sure Keegan Bradley's going to LIV next year. I'm more like 90%, but I think Phil liking that tweet when I said, if Keegan winds up on LIV next year, don't be surprised. That should probably tell you something too.
Anyone else? One other name, maybe?
Yeah, so I'll give you two. You have to keep in mind that like, I do think that LIV has this very strong international presence. Like, that's really what it really is a global tour. And you start looking at guys that might be relegated, like James Piot for the high flyers, which is why they're probably gonna have a spot open. The Australian team, Ripper GC, Jed Morgan is kind of like right on the cusp of maybe being relegated. And one name that keeps popping up, because he isn't a full-fledged PGA Tour member, he's going to be kind of on the outside looking in if he stays on that side of the fence next year, is Minwoo Lee. Minwoo Lee is an Australian native. I think that he also kind of fits in with the sort of LIV branding. Like, they're obviously very heavy into Australian golf. Him being a native Australian and just being really personable and being somebody that like, he's super talented. Like, he engages with the fans. Like, I think he'd be perfect for LIV. I think that one is kind of pending if LIV is able to get OWGR points for next year, which sounds like it's probably going to happen, or get like pathways into the majors, because trust me, these guys definitely want to play in the majors. And then the other name that keeps popping up, and somebody that we already kind of talked about, and I'm sort of 50-50 on whether or not I think he's interested, is Viktor Hovland. So, Viktor Hovland would be a huge get for LIV. He's another international player that would be he brings sort of continental Europe into the equation. The cliques are kind of like that continental Europe team that's looking for a captain, looking for a equity owner. Like, Hovland loves to have a good time. Like, that's his thing. Like, he I don't know how much he really enjoys playing on the PGA Tour, from being honest. Like, I think that he it's fine, but like, as we've seen, a lot of these guys like are perfectly happy playing LIV, and then being able to play the majors, and that's like all they really need. So yeah, we'll have to see. But those are kind of the three names that I'm looking at. And I kind of did them in order that I think they're most likely to go.
Yeah, I love the first two. That's both are very intriguing. I think, to be honest with you, a month ago, I would have leaned on that Hovland and went, yeah, maybe. After this win, I just can't see Jay Monahan and the powers that be, the PGA Tour, letting their newest golden goose go. They're going to throw anything they can at this guy, any kind of ownership, any money, any sponsorship, and including, I think, whoever his sponsors are, they may, hey, don't go there. We want you here because, and so I think that may have changed over the past 2 or 3 weeks on the Hovland situation. But hey, but we're going to find out soon enough. And speaking of finding out, we're recording this on Monday night. Obviously, my show airs Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. But Chris McKee here with Jay Aaron from the Golf Lovers United GC podcast. But Zach Johnson announcing his Ryder Cup picks tomorrow. Who's getting picked? Give me the last couple here.
Yeah, so I've kind of gotten wind of sort of who is going to be picked, and I think Twitter's already been kind of a buzz with, everybody just really harping on the fact that it looks like Justin Thomas is going to get picked for the team. So for the U.S. team, I think the 6 we're looking at are Justin Thomas, Brooks Koepka is a lock, Jordan Spieth is a lock, Colin Morikawa is a lock, and then those last couple picks, it's looking like it's going to be Ricky Fowler, and then the last one I actually put up a poll earlier, asking what people think. Except I've been reliably told that it sounds like it's going to be Sam Burns as the last pick. Yeah. And the reason being is because Scotty Scheffler, like they're looking for somebody to sort of tag team with him. Him and Sam Burns are really, really close. And Sam Burns is an elite player. Like he's a very good player. I don't have him in my top 25, but he's probably top 30, 35 in the world for sure. And he's number 12 on the Ryder Cup standings, so which is still pretty high up there. So except that means that it looks like they're probably going to skip over Keegan Bradley and probably skip over Cam Young. So those were the two. Even though we were told, Fred Couples told us a couple of weeks ago Cam Young was a lock to make it, but I don't think that he really played well the last couple of weeks. He didn't qualify for the Tour Championship. And I think it looks like Cam Young's on the outside looking in.
Wow, that's I mean, and you say that Keegan Bradley left out. Well, what more motivation would there be for him to say, "All right, I'm done with this. I'm out of here. Give me that money. Give me that Saudi money. Phil. I'll see you next. I'll see you in London next year. Let's go."
Exactly.
So Chris McKee with Jay Aaron, of course, you can find him on Twitter at Pro Golf Critic. One of my favorite follows on Twitter. Never afraid to mix it up and put yourself out there. I hate guys who sit on the fence when it comes to golf and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, have a damn opinion. And that's why I appreciate you. But so let's get into
thank you.
Some of the way too early predictions for the 2024 FedEx Cup. Is it going to be the same cast of characters? Or, and I kind of 2 questions lumped in. Who is next year's Wyndham Clark or Brian Harman? 2 guys at the start of the season that, hey, look, really good players. But now these are, guys winning majors, jumped up the top. They're in the top of the FedEx. Who are 1 or 2 guys that you could see making that leap from relative obscurity to maybe major winner or even, in the hunt for the FedEx?
It's a great question. I think there's definitely a few guys that are, one of the things that is really interesting about next year is that, who's going to get into the, what they're calling the signature events. Like that is going to be the sort of top 70, 75 players on the PGA Tour. Those guys are going to be playing for a lot of money every week. And a lot of the guys that are, and you're able to sort of get in there if you finished top 50 in the FedEx Cup standings this year. So that's the thing that's really interesting to me, is sort of looking at sort of who's on the outside looking in for those. And there's still going to be ways for people to sort of play their way into those fields, but it is going to be kind of a closed circuit. One of those people that I do think is probably going to have a good year next year that didn't make it to the Tour Championship is Cam Young. So Cam Young is one of those guys, like he was rumored. He was, frankly, he was basically about 90% of the way signing with LIV last year. But for various reasons, it sort of fell through. So, and I don't think that he is going to go back. I think that he's sort of signed up like It isn't a coincidence that like all of a sudden when DJ goes to LIV, RBC is looking for new golfers for them to sponsor. Cam Young was kind of the main one that came in there. So Cam Young is being compensated very, very fairly to sort of stay with the PGA Tour. So I think he's probably gonna stay there. I can see him using this like Ryder Cup slight, which sounds like it's gonna happen, to maybe propel him to a couple wins next year. Because he still hasn't won on the PGA Tour this year. He still hasn't won on the PGA Tour period yet. Even though he's been a pretty elite player. Like I think he's number 9 on the Ryder Cup standings in the US. I think he finished like 30 to 40 in the FedEx this year. I think that he's on the way up. I think that he could potentially win a major next year. Like he's been really competitive in majors in the past. He finished second in the Open Championship in 2022 to Cam Smith. I think that he's probably one of the guys I would put a lot of stock into. And there's probably a couple other guys that have been kind of elevating themselves a little bit this year. People like Denny McCarthy. He's definitely been on the way up. I'm still a little bit unsure on sort of if he's actually going to make that leap next year, but I do think that he is potentially one of the names people need to keep their eye on.
Well, I like that Denny McCarthy pick. Certainly Cam Young. Yeah, he's the king of second. But Jay, we're running out of time here. You can see the clock running down. I had a bunch of other topics I want to get into, so we definitely got to get you back. So anything obvious other than the new podcast, Golf Lovers United GC, which by the way, Jay's an American. He's San Francisco area based, but the two guys are on the English guys, and they both got these two great British accents, which just adds that almost like European tour authenticity to it, like, or even LIV, Don Boulay, Faraday. It's like I love it, the balance of the English guys and yourself on there. So don't forget, you can check them out on glugc.com. Anything else you want to plug before I let you go?
Yeah, first of all, thank you again for having me on. This has been great. Definitely people should find me on Twitter at Pro Golf Critic. The link in my bio sort of goes to all of my writings that I put out the last year. I've done a lot of things that have gotten the attention of a lot of folks in the golf world. That's really like the thing that sort of put me on the map last year was my first piece that sort of linked in there, the truth about LIV Golf, the PGA Tour, and the media. That one got tens of thousands of reads, and it really put me on the map and sort of put me on the map of the corrupt golf media for sure. So feel free to check out my writing. Feel free to check me out on Twitter. Our podcast, Golf Lovers United, we're on episode 2 now, just came out last week. We're actually taping a couple this week. We've got 2 great guests from the LIV universe. I'm actually going to break this news to you, Chris. We've got Jerry Foltz on, who is one of the lead announcers for the LIV Golf broadcast. And also we have Eugenio Chikara, who just won the Asian Tour event in Scotland this past week. His second win as a professional. He's going to be coming on the podcast. Those two guys we're going to record this week. Look for that in the coming weeks, but feel free to follow me on Twitter, follow Golf Lovers United, glugc.com, Apple and Spotify. We've got a lot of great things planned for the future, so check us out.